the button is pushed.
Oh yeah, man. Impromptu Sunday podcasting. Not even planned. This is great.
For those listening, we're trying to make this a shorter one, so try is the word.
For those listening to the full podcast last time, they got to brisket and pineapple.
Yes, we're gonna have to make a video where if someone messaged Ian brisket, it was 10 calories on the salt bike. Pineapple was 10 extra burpees.
Oh, is it? I thought it was extra 10. I thought it was 20 calories.
No, it was just burpees.
Oh,
well.
Burpees?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't get very many pineapples because pineapple was on the podcast in the last 15 minutes.
YouTube video was already turned off.
YouTube video cut off short, but we got quite a bit brisket.
So look out for that. But today we wanted to get in. We're limited in time, but we still wanted to talk about a very important subject, which is shoulder/neck / migraines. Some of the most common things that I think we both see when we talk about that general area or general injury, right?
Yeah.
So let's start with migraines, I think, because I wanted to touch on that because at least for our members, that's one of those kind of chronic pain or chronic symptoms people get. And the main prescription is usually like, I don't know, Advil, Tylenol, massage, like lacrosse ball, that sort of deal.
Yeah. Theracane. Or
Or they blame it. I mean, yes, there's things like hydration that leads to it, but that's not chronic in my opinion. So if I'm like dehydrated because I drank a lot of coffee, I worked a lot in front of a computer, and then did a workout, then I might get like migraine that day. But if we're talking like people that I've talked to in our gym, people that I've seen, family members, it was just like chronic. This has like been going on for maybe even years.
Yeah, most of my patients that have tension headaches or migraines, some of them have gone on to a migraine course of medication with like a neurologist, and I would say that they don't have a very good success rate with that either. They can never find the right dosage or the right med. Very, very rare that I see that actually work out.
It hasn't worked out for the people that I've seen. They've come back and said that those meds really fucked me up. Like I had to stop taking them because of the side effects.
Yeah.
Where I realized that the migraines, if you look at the cause of it, I guess that's what we always try to do with FixFit. Even before FixFit, through the Kelly Starrett days, with Mobility WOD, Andrea, my wife, she was a preschool teacher. She would have migraines all the time. And so at that point, we were using lacrosse balls because that's what we were taught by Kelly Starrett to do the SMR or the massage with it. She couldn't even lay on a double lacrosse ball. Like, it would hurt so bad.
Double peanut, yeah.
Right? Just laying on it caused her excruciating pain. And we're in the gym, like, putting all our weight into it, putting our arms up, moving through range of motion. She couldn't even lay down. But the funny thing is, she'd feel a specific part of the, like, her head where the headache's at, like the right side or something. I would use my thumb and push down and find a knot, where her trap is or up into where we would put the lacrosse ball. And then that pain would temporarily be gone. Mm-hmm. So then that, through trial and error, we realized that happened more and more in our gym. More members would come in and they had migraines. And we're like, okay, well then before you work out, let's roll it out. And then the same thing. Even my daughter, every time she got a migraine, we realized that it's like muscle related.
Yeah.
And since her traps are so tight, I dig into it, hurt like hell. And then more often than not, the pain's gone or the migraine's gone. So that was a starting point for me to realize, what's causing the migraine? It might be muscles or tight muscles.
Yeah, when I first was in school, they just taught us like, hey, chiropractic care alone could help your headaches. Just adjustments, maybe some soft tissue work added on to it. But in college, I had real bad TMJ headaches, never migraines. Migraines, to separate the two for people listening, migraines have more of a neurological component to it. So there could be an aura where they can feel them coming on. They see spots. There could be nausea, vomiting, numbness, tingling in certain areas, like maybe down their arms and stuff. It's real scary stuff. There's some without auras. But either way, there's quite a bit. There's cluster headaches. It's a big, wide variety. And
is headaches usually less chronic and migraines are chronic? Because I'm not familiar with the difference either. I kind of class them as the same thing.
It's funny because that's a good question, because I think migraines are definitely chronic because people can't figure out where they're coming from. It could be neurological components happening where they we said earlier, like you can't figure out what medication could even help you. Then there's just chronic tension headaches from having like bad neck posture, and that's what I was dealing with in college. It was like sitting there, unhealthy diet, bad overweight, and just like looking down all the time and being stressed, and like my upper trap, neck, jaw was all just tight and bound up all the time.
Yeah.
So adjustments on that would feel amazing. Soft tissue work on my TMJ made all my headache and stuff go away. It wasn't, and then when I first went into practice, the place that I worked at it was multiple disciplinary. So we do adjustments, trigger point injections. So what you were talking about earlier, if you press on one of these nodules that you got in your upper trap, which is basically
like a knot,
like a knot in your shoulder blades. I always tell people, where you get that little massage from your spouse where they just rub your shoulders?
That's exactly what I was doing.
Right.
And the symptoms would relieve right away.
Everyone's gotten that from
so
mom or dad.
What are you talking about, an injection into it? Like
I read up on it a lot because I had never heard of it before until I got into practice. And they were like, here, take this article home and read it, and read all this research on it. It was really interesting. And they take a needle and put it into the trigger point, and then do like an asterisk star pattern into the trigger point, and it's theoretically supposed to dissolve it. And what the nurse practitioners would do is inject a little bit of lidocaine into it, so it would kind of numb it.
Got it.
So when you leave, you're like, damn, my upper traps are basically numbed out.
Yeah.
And then you would go get adjusted, physical therapy to stretch it, that kind of stuff. And I was like, this is pretty cool. We do it like 6 to 8 sessions for people in a row on it.
Yeah.
But man, I used to mark them. Like I'd press on one and put an X on it and be like, tell the nurse this is huge. Like go get this one injected. And they would always come back and be like, it's still there. I don't know how many patients I had say that. It's still there. And I'm like, it's always going to be there. There's like scar tissue in there, and they just like, why isn't this needle breaking it up? So some people would get kind of frustrated. But some success with it, some not. Migraines for sure didn't. And we had Botox there too. That's another treatment that they do for migraines. They do like little Botox injections like around your face.
See how crazy all that stuff is? And then again, it's not that these things don't work. Right. Sometimes if that might be the cause, but
that one would work for people. But they had to do it over and over for the rest of their life, and it's pretty painful.
And that's what we realized is like, okay, well, you keep digging out your traps with the peanut, with the double lacrosse balls. It gives you temporary relief, so you think it works.
Right.
Because you feel it right away. The pain is gone, the headache's gone. But again, for the people that have the chronic migraine, they always come back.
Yeah, my posture still sucked, and it wasn't until I started working out with you guys, and you guys in the gym were doing the Kelly Starrett stuff, laying on the ground, peanut, 2 lacrosse balls in between my shoulder blades, taking the PVC pipe over my head on the ground. And I was like, oh my God, painful, like you said, in the beginning, but in the long run, I was like, my headaches are, reducing each week and every month, like they were becoming less and less.
At least we're adding like movement to it.
Right.
But still the problem with that is like T-spine mobility. Mm-hmm. They use that term a lot, where your upper back is not mobile or it can't bend. And then hopefully that the peanut will fix that. But it loosens it up because it does for a second when you're doing that PVC drill. That's why you don't see the lacrosse ball implemented as much as in our gym, at least to fix movement, but it's there for temporary relief or recovery.
Didn't stop them from going back to work and rounding that upper back, dropping their head forward, that anterior head carriage we call it, and putting a lot of strain on the front of their neck when they go back to work the next morning. Or just because you temporarily relieve that upper back, you're about to throw a barbell over your head now, and probably compress your cervical spine a little bit more because it's looser.
The laxicity or whatever. It's hypermobile.
It's hypermobile now, and now you're throwing a weight over your head. And that's something that we found out coming to when we used to go to your gym, and as practitioners, like the chiro and massage therapists and cupping and stuff, we'd like loosen everybody right before they put a bunch of weights over their head, and we're like, we gotta actually like restructure this. We want to see them maybe after, or we don't go as deep before, because we tell people you're giving them a false hope of where their shoulder mobility is at.
And they're more unstable.
Right.
So usually when you guys come to our big events like barbells or boobs, and you're treating people before like weightlifting, like Grace, 30 clean and jerks per time, it does feel better. Maybe the arms could go back further on a press, but it can only go back further because you guys are turning off those signals. The muscles are off.
I remember sitting in our team meetings going like, we're going to be the lacrosse ball for them. You know, they're stretching kind of thing, but we're not going to be like, all right, that trap's nice and loose, rhomboids are loose, go hit a PR 90% over your head, you know?
And that's what's still the standard of warming up, prepping. Because I used to do a ton of it before every heavy like weightlifting comp or CrossFit workout. It's like in about 30 minutes to an hour prep of mobility.
Yeah, foam rolling.
But we don't do that anymore because it just doesn't make sense. And it's all an evolution like we talked about in the last podcast. We tried it. We kept seeing the same patterns, like this person struggles with overhead mobility. And we do 30 minutes to say average before every class for this person and multiple people. And they slowly get more mobile. Maybe their PVC can go back further, but then their snatch and their overhead squat or their press is still just as bad. And this has been like, we tested for like 3 to 6 months.
That's a good point, yeah.
And then so we're like, you have to kind of do your own case studies and then admit that, hey, that's not working for this person or a bunch of people. Just because people see a video online, or like for us, we're following a Kelly Starrett thing. If it works, great, then you're good. But what we've seen is those are temporary fixes where it gives you that false sense of mobility.
Right. I think where we've evolved is that we found shoulder stability is different than shoulder mobility.
So that definition, flexibility versus mobility again. Yep. Flexibility is just range of motion. I can move my arms all the way back, but then when you have range of motion under tension, now you put a dumbbell, a barbell, that changes the game because the muscles that you want on are not on anymore. So for migraines too, yes, there's a million different solutions. If you Google it, many different causes, no one knows the reason why. But for us, we're like, well, why don't we at least check off the movement part?
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying those other things work or don't work, but what we teach is movement and fitness. So if your traps are overdeveloped, you have a job where you're sitting in front of a computer all day long, maybe you have to carry, a baby all day long. That's what Andrew was doing as a preschool teacher, causing the migraines. If you check that off, then at least you have, one thing less to worry about. Versus what I've been seeing is people lock you in this big, like a close family friend was just saying, oh, I just got this like package that he just bought, for Chiro and Acu and this and that, and I was like, okay, well, what about movement? You those things will probably help you feel better, but like what we have seen, like with your injections on those knots, right? It's like, this is only going to be temporary.
Yeah, my first evaluation as a chiro, to speak from that end, instead of going, all right, you have headaches, a therapeutic trial runs 12 visits, let's just adjust you 3 times over the next month, and your headache should go away. What I tell patients is if you are dealing with chronic or let's say subacute headaches, like it's just been kind of stressful lately, it's tax season right now, your business wrapping up your year, and you're like, man, I'm stressed. If you just came in for a month and got adjusted every other day, you're damn right you should have less headaches, less stress in your neck. But as soon as I let you go after that month, I gave you false hope myself. I feel like I'm not doing it, I'm doing an injustice if I'm like, all right, there you go, I fixed your headaches. Or you're doing another injustice if you're like that, like your example earlier, like, oh, I signed up for 2 packages of 12, 3 packages of 30 visits. It's like, I'm in a maintenance plan for the whole year. It's like, then you're just relying on the chiropractic adjustment like you were relying on Advil, So it's like the same thing of giving false hope. And what I do on my evaluation is I show people where the shoulder kind of relays into their neck. And I think that kind of transitions over to what we're saying for when we work on shoulder structure and stabilizing the scapula, we take care of a lot of people's headaches too. Because when they have someone sit down at the edge of my table and I just put my fingers my hands right in front of their anterior part of their shoulder, so like right where the ball in the socket is,
okay,
and I just push it back and forth, anterior to posterior, just like this. And when I push it back and forth, it's rolling in there sometimes. Like some people's shoulders, they're rounded, and I'm pushing the ball and socket back, and you just hear like clunking, and it's just, and I tell them like that ball and socket is just floating in there. There's nothing structurally holding that down. You're just sitting here against gravity, not in front of a computer, just sitting there with what they think is good posture, and it's just like and rolling. And I'm like, the muscle that's holding that's trying to hold that ball and socket joint is your trap. And then it goes from the base of your head and it goes out to that tip of the shoulder blade, right?
Yep.
And that whole upper trap, if I go right into the belly of it and press on it, like in the massage area we talked about, there's boulders in there. And I'm like, this muscle's working really hard to try to hold that shoulder in. Nothing structurally, you know, in the anterior part, like the pec, or in the back, like the rhomboid and the teres, what we'll get into later. None of those muscles are firing and holding that ball and socket in place.
It's, you know, people talk about posture all the time, and then you see all these new postural products out there that fucking drive me insane.
Yeah.
And we send each other those all the time.
I get asked all the time about them. Yeah.
And again, it's not fixing the problem.
Yep.
So what you just explained is that we're trying to figure out what's causing this migraine.
Yes.
And if it's an overdeveloped trap, we have to figure out why that trap's overdeveloped. Back then, we didn't have a good answer. We just said trap, tightness, migraine.
Trigger points cause headaches.
Dig it out. You fixed it.
Yep.
But that was being naive. We haven't evolved yet. And it was like, okay, if we were smarter at that point, more aware of like, why the hell is that trap overdeveloped? Then now we're getting somewhere. You know, because before it's just trap tight, dig out trap.
Yep.
Trap feels good, headache's gone. Let's go back to snatch. Trap's tight.
Yeah.
And then after months and years of that, then we kind of were like, wait a second. And on our end, we have a lot of, one of the biggest, I guess, benefits to this is not even performance anymore. We're talking about just health, right? Like having migraines is debilitating. It sucks. But our members are so in tune with the mechanics of that the traps can be causing migraines that we have stories of, like Ryan just told me, he's a good buddy and he doesn't mind me using his stories, but he was one of the guys that did the FixFit with us from day one in the photo we posted. So he's been around FixFit since the beginning. The other day, it was last week.
This is before he didn't invite us to whiskey tasting, and he's in Kentucky right now. Thanks for the invite, Ryan.
He did message me this nice bottle that he's bringing back.
Yeah, so. I've been watching his posts.
I'm
not jealous or anything.
He didn't invite us to Kentucky.
That's not a bad flight, man. Well, thanks for the invite, Ryan. But anyway, yeah.
That is the spot to go to, just because of the Buffalo Trace distillery.
I know. I saw. Don't rub it in. And
sponsor us, Buffalo Trace.
Yeah, he had a 10-course meal last night or whatever.
So that's the Ryan.
He's eating escargot.
Yeah.
Okay, excuse me, sir.
Everything looks like art.
Yeah, everything looked like an art dish. But yeah, anyway, get back to how he saved lives before he left too.
He was at his work, and then a coworker was just saying like, "Oh, I have migraines," and so I think the coworker was saying like, "I'm gonna go get like Advil or like a Red Bull because caffeine and ibuprofen usually helps it."
Yep.
And then Ryan knows, you know, the FixFit kind of principles. He's like, whoa, before you do that. Like, so I think they went around wherever they're working, they just found something heavy, and then they started doing some teres carries and teres flexes and just walking around. So Ryan, remember at the gym, he's not a coach or anything, but since he knew how the body works, and he got him to do that, and that guy was like, oh, this does feel better. It's like instant. Yeah. And you hear about that story over and over again. Another story is Julie, she's a nurse. And again, she said I could share a story, but she was working, she's a nurse, and she was holding a patient's head still because they're doing eye procedures.
Yeah, lovely.
Right? Multiple back-to-back. They're quick procedures. They're like 5 minutes, she said, but she's doing a lot of them. So it's not. So she's holding the person's head still, and when you're putting your hands together to hold someone's head, your shoulders are up, your elbows are out, and her neck started to get tight. And she's like, I'm not going to be able to survive this. You know, I have like X amount of patients left. So then she fired her pecs, her teres, and then like, oh, the neck strain was gone. So like,
she knew that though from class, from explain your push-up mechanics. I literally had a guy in here the other day where I was like, he was having some elbow problems, and I said, get into a half push-up, and then tell me where you feel it. And he felt like, you know, all tricep, all elbow. But tell the story of like how you evaluate a push-up, because I think listeners that don't know what we're talking about with teres or pec, this is a good example of a test they could probably try at home on the ground. It's pretty easy.
So it's the first step is getting them to move, and I think people can get exercise-induced migraines, right? You do a bad push-up, we've seen it. You do a bad overhead squat or a push press or whatever. So we want to make sure that you're actually using the right muscles. And we use push-up, for example, because everyone knows a push-up.
Everyone knows one, yeah.
Everyone knows a push-up. We were at the jiu-jitsu.
Even Brett and his 3/4 ones, but yeah, go ahead.
I was at Gracie Poway training, and it was open mat, and then this conversation came up, and it takes like 2 seconds. I told the guy, I was like, hey, can you do a push-up real quick for me? He's like, yeah. And then I was like, hold it halfway. So he holds the push-up, and I just said, hey, where do you feel the tension going? What muscles are you using? And he's like, like my neck, my back of my arms, my neck. So pretty much traps and tricep.
Yep.
I was like, okay, well, if you keep doing push-ups like that, you're going to blow up your traps and then probably have headaches or migraines, right, after a big push-up day.
Well, what do you guys do at the gym? Skull crushers, shrugs, tricep pull down. They love those ones. Bench. Gotta hit the big bench, man. Dominant muscles, or tricep, upper trap for guys especially.
And what we realize, any shoulder movement that we teach in CrossFit, even running, having their arms swing back and forth, right? Something as simple as that. Rowing, pull-up, bench press, specifically burpee, push-up, that's all shoulder movements. Everyone's using their upper trap. So you might be fine, and then maybe like a year into CrossFit, 6 months, 3 months, then you start developing migraines. Then is the migraines from, dehydration or your stress?
Blood pressure.
But what we have found is just that, overdeveloped and overused upper trap. So we get someone to do a quick push-up test. You guys could try that if you'd like. And then you hold the push-up halfway down, just stay there. And I guarantee you'll probably feel it somewhere. The neck, the shoulder, the front of the shoulder is a big issue as well. Elbows. But very rarely do they feel their pecs on, their chest muscle, and then their teres, not the lat, the teres, which is, we just call it armpit.
Armpit muscle, yeah.
The armpit muscle.
Simplify it. I know we could get nerdy into the biomechanics of what the teres is, and
it doesn't really matter because we're trying to help people.
Right.
They don't understand all these crazy words,
right.
Internal torque and external rotation. Who gives a shit?
That's why
T-spine mobility. What does that mean?
I'm so guilty of someone being like, yeah, I got a degree in exercise physiology. I'm like, let's nerd out, and I like start throwing in like, yeah, I call it teres lat junior, and they start laughing at that. I'm like, all right, if you get that joke, then let's keep going on with like, super nerd out into the weeds kind of stuff. But then I love in your classes you just break it down to armpit muscle, riblets for the serratus, riblets, and then
my favorite joke is just using because we're in San Diego, so we have a lot of taco shops.
Yeah.
So I was like, you gotta feel it in the carne asada.
That's so nasty.
And then this is like the carnitas right here.
When I think of raw meat, it just kind of makes me kind of gross, and I'm a meat guy.
We're talking about cooked meat.
Cooked. Then you look all shriveled, like it was like in the sun too long, like
beef jerky.
Yeah, like beef jerky, like an old guy that just tanned too much. He's like a little orange and a little bronze, scaly skin on the side. That's gross. No, but the other cue that you say all the time is like, if you're doing any of these movements, like let's say you're just doing the empty barbell to warm up a snatch or something, and if you're like hold it at the top, bring the shoulder blades, back and down, which everyone knows that cue, but they start, really bringing out their chest open, and you tell people like bring that rib cage down, flex that rib cage down, so then that way they can feel more in their mid trap.
Yep.
And you tell people, and I've heard your other coaches start reiterating this now too, and I love it. It's do you feel it in your neck right now? If you feel it in your neck, you're using your neck.
Yeah.
Right? It's that simple. No one knows where the upper trap is. I show my patients all the time where the upper trap is, and they still don't understand how that moves, but they understand what it feels like to be doing an action where you're using the upper trap, because it's easy to feel it in your neck if you're doing it wrong.
And it's because we get our information, right, from exercise phys, PTs.
Yep.
Kelly Starrett's the biggest name in CrossFit. I was at his seminar, but he's a PT and he owned a CrossFit gym.
Right.
So we're using these terms because we heard it, right? But if someone's doing, we just had we talked about it last podcast, but I just had the coaches training. We just got all 8 of our coaches together and we were integrating like the FixFit mentality or the FixFit way of training, and we're simplifying it. So when you're doing a push-up, we're trying to like, there's column 1 where it's like, you can say like pec or oblique, but pec you could just say chest, right? Do you feel it in your chest?
Right.
Okay, good. If you don't, where do you feel it? Then it's instead of trap is neck.
Yep. Tricep.
Back of the arms. I don't care. Just point to it. That's what we were doing. We're like, all right, if I'm assessing your push-up, I'm like, Ian, hold the push-up halfway down. If you can't even do that, do it on your knees. But then once you're able to hold halfway down, then I just like point to it. I don't even care if you know the name of the muscles. And then if you point to the front of the shoulder or your neck, I'm like, well, that's not your chest. We don't even have to go as simple as saying pec.
Right.
Assuming there's a person in class one day, I was like saying, hey, flex your glutes. And then he raised his hand. He's like, what's a glute? And
you're like, what?
Yeah, to me, I was like, really? But again,
you
gotta say butt.
Yep.
And then I don't even use obliques. I say side abs.
Mm-hmm.
I went like, instead of going more advanced to know how, like to show people how much shit I know, I'm going back to the simplified explanations because I want the members to understand and not glaze over.
Right.
Because I want to help them.
Right.
So if they understand side abs better than obliques, external obliques, serratus anterior, riblets, they understand riblets.
Even riblets is a hard one to get over, but we just keep saying it. And then what I show people is movement, right? Like if I take someone in my office and I'm limited to the equipment that I have, and I'm like, here's a 5-pound dumbbell, and I'm like, flex your pec. You know, you're holding it your elbow at 90 degrees, and I'm like, flex your pec. And they're like, all right, I got it. I'm like, now row it back with your pec still flexed. And do you feel it in your lat, or do you feel it in the front of your shoulder now? Because you start rolling in and impinging right at that anterior delt. And they'll go, I'll have some good athletes go like, I feel my lat. I'll be like, cool, now let's take it overhead and do like we were talking about with Bob, like that kind of pull it back and lock in that Latin scaption first. But that's going to take the serratus to turn on.
Mid-trap serratus.
Mid-trap needs to be fully engaged, so your shoulder blades need to be pinned back. But when you shrug that shoulder down and you try to get that shoulder blade to really lock out in protraction and get that serratus anterior to fire, you should get that cramp in that little riblet area, right?
Yeah.
So now I tell them, like, now you're going to flex the lat this way, you know, arm over head down. So the lat's moving in different directions, and people might be able to activate it in a row, but they can't activate it in an overhead position. They can activate it in the press and in the push-up, but they can't activate it in a pulling scenario. That's like in a snatch.
That's a good fucking point, because then now we're talking about what we're looking for and how to apply it.
Right.
Because a lot of the treatments out there for shoulder pain, as we're transitioning, I think, are migraines, but we're assessing the movement. So, yeah, the push-up may have caused someone's migraine, but what if someone was doing an overhead movement, like a handstand? So they might be perfectly fine with their shoulder mechanics and movement going horizontal, push-up, burpee, bench. They're like, I'm fine. Then they do a handstand hold, a strict press, a snatch, a clean and jerk, and then they have that shoulder issue. So what you're saying is like it's not just the muscles, it's how it applies to movement.
Right.
And then you have to be able to understand how it works and then test it and then work on it.
Because what if we sat down all of our members, all of our patients, and went, let's go over the anatomy of the lat, and here's the actions of them and the origin and insertion. They don't give a shit about that. We do. We went to school for that, and we try to, you know, treat it in multiple different ways, stretching and all this.
I went to minimal school. I'm gonna want to put that shit out there. I stayed at a Holiday Inn, bro. Express.
Yeah, but then I know some therapists that have been in school for a long time, and they just have them pull a band back and do some external rotation with it over and over. And I'm like, you're not strengthening the lat in that, because as soon as that guy that does his bands in external rotation and warms up his shoulder, and he goes to press a suitcase over his head in Southwest, and it weighs 40 pounds or whatever, and he tweaks his neck, and I have to hear about him crying about it the next day. A grown man crying about that he tweaked his neck, pressing a suitcase over his wife's suitcase over the head. I'm like, dude, how sad did that look? You had a polka dot case, a little pink suitcase that you had to put overhead, and I tweaked my neck. I've seen it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so terrible. And it's like, but they foam roll their lat and they externally rotate it with some bands, but it's like you have to learn how to load it.
We talked about that today in the training where we've seen members go to PT and come back, and it was brought up this morning. And then they're doing like the standard PT drill. They have the band hooked up to like a post, and their elbows at 90, and then they're pulling it in and they're pulling it out, working on their rotators, right?
Yeah.
That was the big discussion. We're like, how does that mimic the movements you're going to use? Because our main goal is to keep you doing what you love, your sport, if you like to weight lift, if you like to, run or whatever it is, how is that little band 2-3 pound tension pulling in and out going to transfer into it? Will
Forget
it make
that.
it
What
more
if you're
stable?
just trying to put a case of water in the back of your car and I tweaked my shoulder?
The biggest pain, like, people...
I don't need you at the CrossFit gym for that, or any gym. You just got to learn how to freaking actually get a little stronger for functional movements like that, so you don't tweak yourself.
One of the discussions we have all the time is that we're doing the podcast, creating content in our Instagram, is that we want this information to be out there, but most people probably won't act on it or contact us until they're seriously hurt.
Right.
So that brings up the topic of, like, until, like, the biggest pain complaint when quality of life is diminished, it's like I've seen multiple people saying, I can't take my shirt off. I can't reach behind me to grab something because I'll, like, my shoulder will feel like it's ripping. And I always
go, man, wiping must be hard.
You're like, well, they don't want. That's probably what they're lacking.
Hope you have a bidet.
They're like, it's so hard to wipe with my off arm, but they're not going to tell you that. They're going to say it's reaching behind for something. That's just what I think in my head. I'm going to laugh.
You have a fucking bidet.
Every time someone comes to me saying, when I reach behind, I'm just going to start laughing.
I've just seen, like, some professional bodybuilders where they can't even lift their arm over their head, so then reaching back is, like, not gonna happen. I'm just like, how do you get it done?
I wish that they take some of these case studies, examples that we've seen over and over again, and apply these drills so that you don't get to that point. But in reality, it's like they're going to get to that point, and then they're like, I've tried everything. I've done massage, chiro, this, ice pack, stretches, whatever, and it still hurts. Please, can you try and help me or whatever? And then they're finally ready to do some of these drills. And then again, every time I've seen something, it's like, okay, these drills definitely help because we're starting to address the problem. The problem is every time you move your damn shoulder, it's in the trap.
Yeah.
It's in your bicep. It's in your left scap, if you guys care, but you can look those up. And
yeah, the tiny muscles, right? The upper trap is a small area that covers, it covers a lot of regions. It covers your base of your head, cervical spine, upper thoracic, and above your shoulder blade. But the movement of it is just to shrug up. That's why shrugs feel so easy for people, because we sit with our shoulders rounded all the time. It's easy to just add 50-pound dumbbells in your hand and shrug it up over and over. But if you feel that in your neck the whole time, it's just jamming, and then you go to work and sit like that, and you go home and sit like that, throw in a newborn baby that you're holding at 2 a.m., you're going to be seeing me for, I see more dad necks is what I call it. I've seen you for it. When you had Caleb, you were like, damn, dude, my neck is so bad. My left scap's spasming. And it's like,
can't help it.
How's 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. feeling when you're trying to flex your pec and teres and you're half awake? It's not.
Yep.
It's not happening. But Caleb's head is huge.
That's why it's good. Yeah. Top 3%. Watch out. So the goal is to understand some of the basics. That's why we simplify it so that you can apply it. That's where, like I said, a lot of the people that we've worked with now are armed. When, like Ryan, not only is he doing it for himself, he's like, oh, my shoulder gets tight on a run. He knows how to flex his pec teres. Or if he's at work and he's in meetings, right? But he's now helping others. And that's kind of what we want, is just to have people start to share this. And it's like, if you have a migraine, it might be as simple as flexing your pec and teres throughout the day versus being in front of a computer all day, your head's forward, and then what do they tell you? Fix your posture. Shoulders, a joint cue, back and down. But those little postural support things that you could buy, all you're doing is just, again,
well, going back to it, I sit people at the edge of the table, and like I said in my exam, and I go, pretend like you're sitting at the computer. They'll fake the best posture ever for that, right? And I'll go, hold it. And when I press on the humeral head, and I tell you it's floating around, and it's really floating around, and it's like, oh,
there's no muscles holding it.
There's nothing structurally holding that in place.
That's a good test. I didn't know you did that test.
I forgot to tell you.
I don't touch people. Like, I'm not doing manual tests.
You should go home and try that on is Andrea, because I was just about to say it.
Because it's like a movement where I'm shaking her.
No.
Because
don't shake. Don't go home and shake her.
You hear that, Andrea? Ian wants me to shake the hell out of you.
No, not that yet. Not yet. Maybe you want to, and this isn't. Don't blame me.
This is FixFit. It's chiropractic orders. I have to do it. It's the doctor seeing how lax your shoulders are.
Lax is the word I was trying to get to. Is that postpartum, if she's breastfeeding for a year, it doesn't even matter. It just naturally your body after you give birth is going to have that relaxin hormone going through their body where it takes a while for it to exit. Her shoulders are naturally going to be lax. So if you got a CrossFitter that I could see that's like, all right, so I'm 3 months postpartum, moving this PVC is feeling good, moving my strict dumbbell presses, my pecs are feeling good. I'm like, do you really want to go for a PR snatch or push press today? Because that shoulder head is literally, naturally still lax, no matter how much you're trying to fire that pec. But, even if they have strong pecs, strong lats in that overhead position with that lax hormone going, at least they're protected from,
It's a buffer, right?
Yeah.
We're just trying to build a solid foundation so you can buffer the activity you like, whether it's surfing. I've seen a lot of surfers too. Their shoulders are fucked up.
That pop up.
Yeah, because, and then paddling. They're shrugged up paddling because they're looking up. I don't think anyone's heads down in the surfboard paddling, right? That might be a better position, but you can't go anywhere. It's not functional.
Yeah, this is where the episodes are going to start branching off into specifics.
Well, so here, I'm going to go over the Terry's carry, right? Because, one, it can help fix migraines, check it off. It's worked for us. That's why we're saying it. I'm not saying this is the cure-all, but for our members, they always refer to the Terry's carry or Terry's flex. So they do this shit at work. They do it before the workouts. Some people, tweak their shoulder during a burpee workout or a push press workout. I remember vividly someone was doing there's push presses, and then they came to me like, oh, something's kind of pinching in the front of the shoulder, it hurts. They did a round of Terry's carries, took about a minute throughout their 20-minute workout, and then right after he's like, oh man, it feels great, and he went right back to working out. So he had the tool to kind of fire the right muscles, and then the pain was gone.
Terry's carries look like a farmer's carry with kettlebells, but
and another story before I teach it, it's Clark, I asked if I could share a story as well. He's attempting his first bar muscle up. So it's where you do a big kip on a pull-up bar, and then instead of pulling your chin up, you end up on top of the bar, and then you do a dip to push out, right? So when you're learning it and you're really close, you do a ton of attempts. He was just trying all the technique drills, kip harder, push away, and then he said that the next day, and it was kind of expected because he did so many, his shoulder was in pain, for a good 24 hours. Luckily, and Clark's been in the FixFit classes, so he knows how it works.
Yeah, he's one of the day one people. Huh?
So he's the one that attended the classes when we actually had a FixFit class at our gym. And then the next day was a 400-meter Terry's carry. I think it was as a finisher or a warm-up. We use those as activations or a good way to reset your body before you go home. And then the pain went away. So he came up to me the following day. We were in the gym. He's like, hey, I just got to tell you the story. And then he said, bar muscle ups, I did a bunch. The next day, I couldn't even lie on it. Woke me up 24 hours straight of pain. And then did one 400-meter Terry's carries, and the pain was gone. Completely gone. Going from whatever. It's 7 to 10 pain. Maybe not that excruciating, but let's say 7 and down to 0. And so, it's just those constant reminders, even for him, that it works. So the Terry's carries looks exactly like a farmer's carry. So if you're watching YouTube, what is the timestamp right now? So if you're listening, you could just fast forward it to this.
Around 38 minutes.
38 minutes. Okay, so I'm going to talk to the YouTube camera. So when people do farmer's carries, I not even look this up because I'm looking for the cues that people use on the interwebs.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is a great upper trap workout.
If you do it one-sided, it's a suitcase
carry. So we actually do that as well. Yeah. But if you look at any YouTube video, the muscles being trained is for the grip, your upper trap, and everything's upper trap, upper trap, upper trap. I'm like, that's not the point of this. We're not trying to reinforce bad movement patterns using your upper trap. We're also not. We're trying to get away from using the upper trap. So the best way to explain it is we always start with this pec drill. So put your hands palm facing each other, and you're gonna push your palms together as hard as you can. And then it takes a while, but then soon enough, because you're trying to crush something in between your hands, your pecs will turn on. So that's step one. After you feel that, your pec stays on, then you're going to also pull your shoulders down as hard as you can with your pec staying on. And then you should start to feel your riblets, which is your serratus anterior, and that armpit muscle, which is your teres. In our gym, we separate the two. So this is the teres, where it's right underneath your armpit on the back, where everyone calls a lat. But what we found is when you fire the teres and the pec, your trap turns off. So we do this carry where, again, this is just the activation. When you hold the kettlebells or dumbbells, the first thing we do is we make sure that we're not shrugged up. We actually have the shoulders and like spread out and down. Again, we hate using joint cues because if you go shoulders back and down, then you're putting it into, I don't know, erectors, mid-back, biceps. So you flex your pecs, you flex your teres, and then you're almost like punching the kettlebells down. Another cue, if you're learning it, is the elbows. The point of the elbows should be aimed out to the side because that allows you to push back with your pec, right? And then for the teres carries, one of the main indicators that we're doing it right and the selling point, because we could say all these cues that this movement's magic, we have people flex their pecs and their teres and holding the kettlebells. When you do it right, you should be able to turn your neck and there's no restriction.
Yeah, I love that part of it.
It's fucking incredible because it's like...
That's when you know you're doing it right.
Exactly.
Like if you just sit in bad posture and look left to right, you'll feel your upper trap start to get tight. But if you flex that pec and teres as much as you can, you'll gain range of motion, which means that your upper trap's at least, you know, relaxing a little bit more and it's not doing all the movement of your upper thoracic area.
That's an important selling point because it shows people how important muscles are. In terms of mobility, recovery. Because if everyone listening is probably sitting in some shitty ass posture. I'm sitting here with shitty posture.
Of course.
So if I just sit here and I turn my neck left, which I'm doing now, it's restrictive. I feel like it's tight. And if I turn my head right, same thing. But if I flex my pec and teres right now and then I turn, it's like someone hit the unlock switch. And then my neck just had more degrees of range of motion. But what that means is now I'm finally not using my traps to hold my shitty posture, my head in place. So the teres carries, that's why, when we're talking about why it works, is because you're actually using your pec and teres to relax your upper traps. And I always tell people, whether you're like doing dishes, walking around, sitting in front of a computer, working out, you have to use muscles. So it's your choice. You can do these farmer's carry, you can do these push-ups, right, using your traps. You can sit at your computer desk, right, with your traps and your head forward, because muscles have to support it. Or you can start to build that awareness and train your body where while you're on your computer, and same thing with DJ's cue, one of our coaches from the last podcast, he's driving, he's flexing his pec and teres. And again, it's because now your neck for your 20, 30-minute commute, you're working on the muscles that you should be using versus 20, 30 minutes where you're in your neck the whole time. And that's why I believe that a lot of the migraines stem from our daily activity of what we define as posture, which muscles you're overusing. And that's what's causing a lot of the injuries and migraines.
I'm very upper trap dominant from the years of bad posture and having a giant head to carry around. And just, you know, wrestling and being like in this position is very comfortable for
wrestlers,
me right now.
Dear goodness.
Yeah, we have the most anterior rolled shoulders. I mean, we look like we got turtle shells on our back. It's real bad, but I've tweaked my shoulder a few times on pull-ups, and even now, if I have to link pull-ups at the gym, I could start feeling that catching happening in the front of my shoulder. I'll literally, before a next set, just sit there and flex down, make sure my pec is on before I jump onto the bar. And I could feel myself push off the bar if I'm doing like a kipping pull-up, and it feels great. And less injury, less soreness the next day in my neck. But I always tell my patients when I show them these, I call them pec activation instead of, teres carries with the actual kettlebells. I'll try to advance them to. But I'll tell them pec activation with that pushing their palms together thing.
Yep.
I'll even show them with a weight so they could, I tell them grab a weight, grab a dumbbell, grab any kind of inanimate object that you could just kind of crush to get that pec on so it's a visual, and pull the shoulders back and down. But I tell them obsess about it, just like you said, in that car, I do that all the time. I push into my steering wheel and pull it back and down, and it feels great, especially at the end of a long day.
Yep.
If I've been, adjusting a lot of people or they got done at the gym. But I had a guy who I actually want to get on the video. He said he wanted to do it, who had neurologically arm pain coming from his neck. I mean, it was confirmed on multiple images that he had spinal stenosis in his neck, So what that means is when you have a proper neck curvature, especially since we're on podcast for some people, the natural curve of the neck, it looks like a banana. It's a banana shape. Okay. I guess it's facing this way. It's facing backwards on me. We're reverse banana. That's literally what someone told me once. I was like, some little girl told us that at the office. I thought that was hilarious. But it's reverse banana if you go the other way. Like, everyone knows that. So if you have spinal stenosis where you're in between your vertebrae, you have your spinal cord, right? He has that physically narrowing and reversing the other way. It pinches.
And causing...
Yeah, I never say pinch nerve, but I mean this literally pinches somewhere and causes a shooting pain down his arm. Since I showed him that pec activation, it's been completely gone. I mean, every time he feels it start coming on, he can do it now and turn it off, get away his numbness and tingling and sharp shooting pain away from his neck just by flexing.
The pec.
No weight, yeah. I can't get that guy into the gym. And he's just like, into any gym.
But that's not his intent.
His intent's like, I don't care. Like, I'm not going to try to, like, his intent was, I don't want surgery or another injection. And he got, his follow-up visit, and they were like, we don't even want to do another MRI. You're doing so good.
That's amazing. It's stenosis. It's a condition that is diagnosed, and usually it's, it's
progressively
incurable,
worse.
Or we can do some sort of surgery to, maybe fuse it.
It could be a genetic thing that you're prone to, and I think he is. Like, his family has dealt with it. Like, his dad had neck surgery and stuff. But I showed him this, and his thing is just to not progressively get worse over time, because he's got to keep working. He's got kids to raise.
That's what I want people to understand. That's the reason why it's called FixFitness, right?
Right.
Because we're trying to fix what you define as fitness. And you define as fitness might be for him going to work because his job's active, playing with your kids, going for a hike, getting up out of bed without pain.
That's an amazing way to put it, dude.
Because that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to make you a CrossFitter. I could care less if you CrossFit, or a weightlifter or runner. That's the idea, is like, what do you define as movement, exercise, what you love? And we're trying to improve or enhance that. For him, it's amazing. He has stenosis and numbness going down his arms. He did pec activation or teres flex, but we call something different, and then that's gone. And he knows how to manage it. Like, when someone gets a migraine in my gym, the first thing they do is teres carries. They come in and they're like, I had a long day at work. I'm going to go hit teres carries. Don't talk to me. Like, they know where to go to right away.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I feel so much better. It's like, okay, that's a better solution now. They know when it's happening, and now they can manage it better.
Yeah. That's funny, because I treat so many athletes. You see so many people wanting to be active. There are occasional times where I have patients that are just like, I'm like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do more of? And they're just like, nothing.
Some people don't want to work out at all.
Yeah.
And that's part of their fitness. Their fitness is playing with their kids.
I had to negotiate with a patient once to just walk around her block a little bit. I'm like, can you at least just like walk around the block? And she's like,
no.
I was like, damn, just one lap for me, please? Because I was showing her the kickbacks, and I was like, but if you could, go test out your glutes and actually fire them like, walking, not just to the grocery store every day. She's like, yeah.
That's where I tell a lot of we are close to an area with a lot of engineers, right? Nurses too, especially engineers. They're sitting in front of computers all day, so their fitness might just be surviving their 8-hour, 10-hour workday. So I'm getting them to fix a movement that they do the most, and that's sitting at a computer desk. So I have them, instead of holding kettlebells, they can do that same pec flex drill or teres flex while they're typing and stuff.
Dude, and shout out to nurses. They have the worst ergonomic setups in all hospitals. 100%.
And
bad chairs, bad computers, crazy schedule.
And it's stressful. When you stress, you're like, you tighten up, and it gets even worse.
They are the backbone of healthcare for sure, dude.
Yeah,
it's crazy
I'm experiencing that right now. So they're amazing.
They are amazing.
If you're a nurse out there and you're fucked up, hit us up.
I see a lot.
I will work with you for free.
Labor and delivery, every time they come in, I'm like, thank you. My mom's a nurse. She's been a nurse for like 30 years or something.
Yeah.
Labor and delivery. Seen so many injuries in that world. But yeah, we should hit them up more. So to kind of wrap this up, the migraines is a big deal because we see that a lot. Because that's the number one chronic thing that has helped. Migraines, tension headaches, shoulder pinching.
Injuries as well. it's the same type of mindset where if you use the upper trap to do all of your shoulder movements, then that is going to have a lot of wear and tear on certain areas, like the front of your shoulder. I don't know the injury names, and I care less. I'm not here to do that. Like, is it like a slap tear, or labrum tear, or is it bursitis? But what I do know is my goal is to figure out, when you're moving, are you making those conditions worse, or is that the root cause of it? And every time that I've assessed someone move, you're using your traps only. You don't feel your pecs at all when you do this. You don't feel your teres. You don't use your serratus.
Yeah.
If you don't know what a serratus is, and it's been the evolution, you go on to like the Chinese weightlifting Instagram page, like Moss Strength or something, because they're like leaner, and then you watch all the Olympic weightlifters because they're overhead athletes. All their movements are holding stuff overhead, and then when they have the bar overhead, it looks like their gills going up and down their ribs. That's the serratus.
Shout out Chinese weightlifting.
It's pretty crazy. I think they have the best serratus example that I can find.
They're probably the only example, at least with the bar overhead. So that's what's kind of cool with this episode, is that we can cover a nurse that just doesn't even want to work out, doesn't have time to work out.
Someone with stenosis
that just
also doesn't want to work out. But then we can talk serratus anterior in an overhead position. Those are huge. I mean, we could do episodes on each one specifically. So this is kind of just the intro for what we think shoulder stability and turning off your upper trap for reducing tension in your neck and in your head, literally, for headaches, can do for you. I mean, this is a starting point. When I say pec activation drill and Mark says teres carry, like you said earlier, that is a warm-up or that is a cool-down. That's not even performance yet. Yeah, we're not applying it to the movement yet.
That's the next step. That's the evolution.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Speaking of
planting the seed.
Speaking of evolution, it's almost time for WrestleMania.
Yeah, I wish I could make it.
Oh, I can't make it. Shouts out to Deej and Brett. We're about to go watch some Mania.
I've also gotten a couple of messages about T-spine mobility and this and that through the Instagram page, and I'll make a video on the teres carries, like a full 5-minute one.
We got to get back on the videos this week.
So then they know how I teach the teres carry, how to apply it. But I just want people to start to ask that question: why? What's causing it? So if an athlete, you or your clients, have terrible overhead mobility and you think it's T-spine, that's fine, but understand why is it happening. If you have really tight upper traps and you push on it and then the migraine goes away, well, what's causing the tight upper trap? If you push up and it hurts, what's causing it? So just kind of have that in there.
Bad posture is always the answer that people think.
But it's not the answer. It's a starting point of the posture. But what you keep going, right? You dig deeper. What is bad posture? Well, is it using upper trap, or is it using pec, or you're not using teres?
Most we want you to get out of it is that it's a movement issue, not a postural issue. Posture is how you're looking in a sitting position or a standing position. And I tell people all the time, the only bad posture you can have is being in one position for too long.
Yeah.
So what if you're not in one position for too long and you're doing a variability workout like CrossFit where you're up, down, push up, pull? Now you're constantly varying it, which you think would be good for it, but now you're overusing those bad postural muscles, right?
Yeah, your trap's on everything. At different ranges.
It's not sitting anymore. Now it's moving all the time. Both of those are bad for you. So how can you fix it?
Yep.
Talk to us. That's what we're here for. We're here to show you that it's a movement issue. It's not I have a tight upper trap. That's the cause of everything.
Or the mobility's the fix.
Right.
Or the SMR, the lacrosse ball, the massages. Those are all recovery. It will make you feel better.
Short term,
right?
Yeah.
Even these drills like the teres carries, it will make you feel better, but that doesn't necessarily reteach you how to do the push-up with your pecs.
Right.
So again, we're just teaching the principles of it. Don't just take the teres carries and do that the rest of your life. It will reinforce your shoulder.
Yes.
But if you don't change it the way you push up, what the fuck? Good luck.
So get fit.
Yeah. Or don't do anything at all.
Don't do anything at all. Just do this forever.
Flex your pec and teres and obliques while you watch Netflix.
Just don't get adjusted every other week forever. And I'll take care of your headaches.
Don't call me every week. I don't want to see you every week.
Some people I don't want to see every week. Just kidding. Love you all. This week we should have an outro song if Deej is on top of it. But the intro song sounded good last week. Thank you, Deej.
What's the timeout right now?
54 minutes.
Fuck.
Let's get out of here in a minute.
Yeah.
Real quick, Follow us at FixFitness Guys on Instagram, at Cook Cairo, at MarkSonFixFit.
Let me know. It's being more, I get more interaction now, which is great. But the whole purpose of that page, spending time on it, is to help coaches, to help athletes, to help people that are in pain. I'm realizing it's not just coaches and athletes. The first couple podcasts we've done, it's like if you're a nurse, if you're an engineer, if you're an accountant, and someone sends this to you, your friend, you don't work out, and you have neck pain, please don't be like my family friend and buy 18 packages for $600 each. Like, you know, you may want to try something else that is potentially free and it's actually fixing the problem, right? So
hit us up. That's right. We're going to get more programming out there soon too. So I do want to talk about this. I'm putting together at first it was a powerlifting program, but now I realize we're just training the foundation of movement. So you're going to be working all the major muscles that don't fire. And I'm going to be running probably a little seminar on it. So if you want to be a case study on that, hit us up
because that's
Mark.
Because I'm already gonna run it. I'm gonna participate in it because I want to get from my deconditioned self to a 500-pound deadlift.
Because Mark's skinny fat right now.
I'm definitely skinny fat,
and I'm just fat. I have probably 100 cals deal on the bike tomorrow, so
it's not bad.
I'll burn off the fat.
That's not bad.
Real quick, we had like 8 subscribers. I think we're up more than that. We had like 8 5-star reviews on our podcast. I would like reviews now, so written reviews. I'll probably be reaching out to a few people like, hey, leave just like a sentence of how much you love us and how much you love my voice, how much you love my hair. Ooh, girl, that looks good today.
It does look good today.
Ooh, it's because it's Mama's brunch.
DJ's Mama's brunch.
Mama's brunch. She got the good hair today.
Well, that's fair. I'm
gonna go hang out with DJ right now. He's gonna make fun of it the whole time.
I would ask for, you know, whatever, follow us on these channels or leave a review if I've ever helped you. There's a lot of you. If I've ever helped you with that, you know, pain.
That's what I meant.
I fixed your shoulder. I fixed your knee. I fixed your back. Just, you know,
do a little shout out.
Drop us a little shout out.
Hey, we listen
send the videos too, because that's really important. We're realizing I'm not very good at social media and whatnot, or tech, obviously, for podcasts. But if this video that I made for the Terry's carry and it's worked for you, don't just be like, "Oh, it's cool. Please send it to your uncle."
It only took 12 minutes to wrap this up this time. I mean, we're progressing pretty well. But hey, we do listen to you guys because last time was an hour and a half, and everyone just keeps crying that it's too long. So we're under an hour. So DX just got inducted.
Yes, brothers, suck it.
Yes, we ended it with a suck it.
Cold brew. We need somebody.